Welcome back to the channel. It's good to have you here. Millionaires, future millionaires, let's get right to it. Today we're talking about the envelope method. It's a way of saving cash that will help you reduce your spending, increase your savings rate, and hopefully keep you from overpaying when those special sales come up. We've talked about budgeting in the past, and the envelope method is one of the most common ways to first set up a budget or to get an idea of how much money you're spending, how much money is coming in, and visually see what you're spending that on. It pretty much entails getting envelopes for your different types of expenses. So we talked about housing, transportation, and food. What that would mean is at the start of the month or at the partway through, whenever you get paid, you have a series of envelopes in your house and you take cash out of your banking accounts or checking accounts to put in those envelopes. $500 for rent or mortgage, $300 for food or eating out expenses if you tie those together, $100 to $200 for car expenses. And you put those in 20s. I'd recommend 20s or 50s, but probably 20s. What that causes you to do is when it's time to pay rent, time to pay mortgage, anything like that, you have to physically see the cash in hand when you hand it over to someone else. You know, if that's your mortgage, you have to go to the bank and pay it there. Rent, sometimes you have to pay online, but you are actually seeing that money that's in your possession and then giving it away. And the psychology behind that is, quite interesting. We don't really have a problem with swiping a credit card, swiping a debit card, giving someone a piece of plastic. It's far more difficult to go and hand someone $200, $300, $400, count it out in front of them, and say, yeah, this is worth it. So you have these different envelopes, and they're used to track your expenses, and they're a visual way for you and your family to see how much you spend each time you go out, make a purchase, or buy anything, really. It helps you see, this is what I'm spending my money on, and it gets in your head and makes you think, every time I want to go to TJ Maxx, I want to go get drinks, I want to go do something else, I have to bring cash in hand and hand it over to somebody else. It's a lot harder than, holding my phone up and hearing a chime and Apple Pay going off, or putting it on a credit card and knowing that I only have to make a minimum payment of like $40, $45 a month. What this causes you to do is to have cash in hand and physically give it to someone else. And that's difficult. It is far more challenging to do that than to just keep swiping plastic. It's one of the first savings methods that I've ever implemented, and honestly, one of the best. It's something that I still do now and then when I'm saving for big purchases or things like that. By the time I've saved up the amount for the purchase, a lot of times I've convinced myself that I don't actually want it or I don't actually need it, that it's not gonna bring me as much happiness as, say, saving that and using it to spend time with my family later, or taking a short vacation and spending time with family. A lot of times it's electronics, gadgets, stuff like that. That's what I'm into. And if you have to save up $500, $600 in cash in hand to then go give to someone else, that's difficult, versus I could go out today, put on a credit card, 0% interest, and make small payments, for the next year and a half. But that doesn't help you with savings. That doesn't help you on your path to financial freedom. That doesn't help you get independent. That makes you dependent. It makes you part of the system and keeps you running on that treadmill, paying and paying and paying and paying. And that's not what you want. Another tip for saving money using cash or the envelope method is to set aside 5s and 1s anytime they come into your possession. Anytime you're out, you're spending money, and you break one of your 20s, or break a 50, and you come back and you have a $1 bill or a $5 bill, I would recommend putting that into your savings envelope. What that means is your envelope's gonna get bigger over the week and over the month, and you're gonna save those 1s and save those 5s, and they add up, because those are the bills you're most likely to carry with you and the most likely to spend. I have no problem giving a 1 away, buying a burger for $5. But if I have to go and break a 20 at McDonald's or give a 20 to somebody at Chick-fil-A, I'm a lot more hesitant to do that, and you probably will be too. So get 1s or 5s, put them aside, put them in that envelope, put them in savings, and that savings envelope will get bigger and bigger as the month goes on. You put that in your safe or wherever you're saving your money at the end of the month, and you have more than you started with. You do that every month, and I promise you, within 5 months to a year, you'll have an extremely nice emergency fund that'll help you whenever something bad comes up. You won't have to rely on selling something. You won't have to rely on a credit card or a debit card for money that you don't have, and potentially, take a hit on your account if you do an overdraft. You don't want to do that. This method it's not easy. You have to be very mindful. You have to be very conscious of your spending, and you have to be proactive about it, because you can't start this halfway through, do it for a couple weeks and then stop. You can't start it and say, you know, I'm gonna do this for 2 months, but after that I'll have my $300-400 saved up and I'll be good after that. This is something that helps you gain financial understanding, helps you realize how much money you're spending and where you're spending it. And that's priceless. You know, you can look at your bank statements. I'd encourage you to do that, and that'll tell you where you're spending the money. But when you physically hand the cash over to somebody else, hand it to a checker, hand it to a teller, you will remember that feeling of, ugh, a little bit of me just died giving $500 away for, you know, a little bit of work on my car or new tires or something like that. Or, you know, if you're going out with friends and you go out and get drinks, you know, it can easily turn into $50, $150, depends on how much you're buying for other people. And at the end of the night, you have to hand over $150 for drinks. That's a lot harder than just signing on the line and swiping your credit card and heading home. Or going back the next day if you forgot to grab your credit card or debit card. Do this, and I promise you, your life will be better in the long run, and you'll be taking those first steps towards financial freedom. So when I did this method, I had probably 5-6 envelopes labeled housing, food, transportation, fun money, and savings. The largest amount, obviously, was housing, and it pretty much just goes down from there. I tried to save between $100 and $200 a month, and after, you know, that envelope was done at the end of the month, after everything else had been paid for, gone through, I took it out of that envelope and put it somewhere in the house. At the time, I had a small safe, so I would put it in there. And each month, you know, I'd end up with another extra $100 to $200 in that safe, and that was the start of my emergency fund. It took me probably 4 or 5 months of saving to get to $1,000. Some months I was at 100, some 200, but it averaged out to like 5-6 months or so by the time I was able to get to $1,000. And it was difficult, you know, saving that money, knowing it was there and not spending it was not easy, but it was out of sight, it was out of mind. I had tricked myself into believing that money was already spent, it was allocated, it was in a safe, locked up. If I wanted to get it, I had to go dig the key out somewhere, find it, unlock it, and then I'm thinking to myself, wow, I'm not doing what I said I was gonna do. I'm not holding myself accountable. And that doesn't feel good. So I never did that. I never, you know, went and looked at it or anything like that, but it would have been nice to spend it. But it's far nicer having, you know, 5, 10, 15,000 in the bank than the $300 iPhone you would have bought or the, you know, $200 Chromebook you were gonna get. It's so much better to have that safety net and that savings at the end of the month. And then each month, after the money was taken out of those envelopes and used for the various expenses, starting the next month, you do the same thing. You take the cash out of your bank account or out of your check if you're paid in check when you get paid, and put that money in each envelope. And it really helps to have someone hold you accountable. So if you have a girlfriend, boyfriend, partner, anyone else like that, talk to them. Talk this over with them, get a plan together, and make this something you guys work to hold each other accountable to. It's like anything, being healthy, being, you know, going to the gym, procrastinating, it really helps to have someone else that's like in your corner rooting for you, that wants you to succeed, that helps support you in this endeavor. And you know, that's what it is. This is an endeavor. This is a lifestyle path. It's a lifestyle change. If you're here enjoying this content, like and subscribe if you want more of it. You're already ahead of so many people in the world, people that are gonna have $1,000 or less in their bank account for their entire life. Think about that. Like you're here and you're already gonna be a step or more than a couple steps ahead of all those other people who will never take control of their financial life, who will never have full control of their life. They're held accountable to other people, to other things. They're not gonna have that safe with $1,000 in it. They're not gonna have $10,000 in their bank account. They're gonna have credit cards. They're gonna have multiple credit cards. They're gonna carry balances that are never gonna be paid off. They're gonna have loans, multiple loans that are far too high of interest rate because they have bad credit, and they're not gonna have an emergency fund. They might have a little bit of retirement, a small 401k, a small investment fund. But what's the point of having that when you owe so much more money? When you couldn't survive for a month or two without your job? You know, you lose your job, you're done. You're selling stuff to get by, or you're finding another job like that. You don't have any other options. You're gonna put more in credit cards, take another loan out, go to the store, get yourself some envelopes. Super easy, dollar store, Walmart, wherever you wanna go. Label them for every single expense you're gonna have. If you have a few minor expenses that are automatic, you don't have to worry about them. But anything over $50 that you've budgeted for or that you've allocated money for, you need to have an envelope for that. And you need to physically take the cash out of it every time you're gonna spend it or use it. Because it makes it a lot harder to go and spend money, wait, this isn't mine, anywhere that isn't really essential when you have to open up your savings or your other envelopes and say, yeah, here you go. I guess I liked having that money, but you're gonna do better things with it, right? Wrong. Keep it at your house, put it in a box, put it out of sight, put it in a safe, put it somewhere where it's gonna be secure, where you're not gonna grab it and go spend it, where you're not gonna think, I could get a lot of Chick-fil-A with this money. Because I would eat Chick-fil-A every day if I could. But then I probably wouldn't have any savings. Because eating out is extremely expensive, you know? I meal prep most of my meals. I eat out once or twice a week at the most, and I budget for that, you know? I budget $100 to $150 for eating out and entertainment. That's my big splurge, you know? I don't gamble, I don't drink a lot, I don't do really anything that you would call, you know, entertainment spending. I go to work, I come home, I make wonderful YouTube videos for you guys. Hope you learned something, like and subscribe. But this is more of a hobby and this is fun for me. You know, I enjoy this. I want to be a resource. So hopefully this envelope method can help reduce your expenses. You know, we talked about in the last episode that it's really, really important to reduce your expenses, set realistic goals, and budget appropriately. And the budgeting appropriately and the savings really go hand in hand and, you know, come together in this topic. That it is so easy to spend money on Amazon. It is so easy to just pull up your phone and swipe for things or swipe your credit card. The money just pours out of you, you know? It's like you're a bowl with 10 different holes and the money's just going out. And no matter how much you pour in the top, it's gonna go out, you know? You could be making hundreds of thousands of dollars, but if you're spending more than you bring in, you're not gonna have any savings. You're gonna live paycheck to paycheck, you're gonna be living outside your means, and you're not gonna be in control of your financial future in your life. And that's not what I want for you guys. Toss me a comment if you have any ideas or things that I could do other videos on. I really appreciate all the feedback. You guys have a wonderful week.